refloat a beached vessel. The tricky maneuver involves something called the line of death. The danger is the threat of the rescue.
The line of death is a line that we use, knowing the navigational draft, which is 18 feet for this ship. We cannot cross that line.
Schiffbauer's job is to make sure the Grasp is always in safe water.
280 is a safe course.
That's not always easy when the skipper is running the ship toward the beach at 10 knots.
Closer bridge, 300 yards. What we have to do is we have to run directly at the beach at between 8 and 10 knots so that the beach gear will stream properly.
The line of death, beach gear. This may all sound rather strange to landlubbers, but on the USS Grasp, it's everyday talk. Especially when they're trying to get a wreck like this off a beach and back to the ocean where it belongs.
Iron Grip 10, go ahead.
10 Iron Grip, we're extracting the vessel off the beach.
This is the sort of unglamorous job the Grasp does all the time. To refloat this wreck, the Grasp has to turn herself into a seaborne winch. It has to muscle this hulk off the beach without slipping. It's not easy or safe. The first thing the Grasp has to determine is how close it can get to the hulk that's been beached.
From the sea surface to the bottom of our ship is 18 feet, so we cannot go any shallower than that.
We plotted at low tide so that we know exactly how close we can get to the beach without running aground.
Workboats string a row of buoys to mark the spot, and this is the line of death.
We cannot cross that line. If we cross that line, we will ground the ship. Then I could lose my job, the captain would lose his job, and then that's not a good thing.
Unlike a maverick steer, you simply can't rope a ship and pull it off the beach. You have to have something to hold on to, some sort of leverage. And that's where the beach gear comes in.
Beach gear to most people is a beach chair and an umbrella. A beach gear to a salvor or somebody on a salvage ship is chain and anchor used to retract a grounded ship. A leg of beach gear consists of a 6,000-pound anchor, a 90-foot shot of 2 1/4-inch chain, and then 1,500 feet of 1 5/8" wire rope.
Tools of the trade. To give itself leverage on the slippery sea, the Grasp drops the anchor, the beach gear, hundreds of feet from shore. Then the ship gets up speed and heads straight for the line of death, playing out the anchor line behind it.
Once we see that the beach gear is streaming properly, which means it's laying out and it's being stretched properly, then the next thing that I become concerned with is making sure we turn at the right moment. If you turn too early, your beach gear is not going to be laid properly, and if you turn too late, you're aground.
The Grasp turns at the last minute and disconnects from the beach gear, letting it float free, tied to a buoy.
And we turn around, get clear, come back in and pick that up over the bow, where it's put in what we call linear hydraulic pullers.
Okay, mast tower trip, standing stop.
The Grasp is now pointed away from the wreck on the beach and is pulling the anchor lines taut over its bow. This is what gives the ship its leverage to pull the hulk off the beach. Sailors from the Grasp had already gone to see what condition the wreck was in.
We dispatch a small boat with a survey team in. They go and survey the wreck or the vessel that's aground to see how hard it's aground. We check the bottom for any damage.
This is where the Navy divers working off the Grasp come in. They jump into the murky water to make sure the hulk won't sink when it's yanked off the beach. But this is not the sort of diving audiences are accustomed to seeing. There are no playful dolphins around here to entertain the viewer. And if there were, no one would ever see them. Visibility on most salvage jobs is close to zero. This is no exception.
It's a little bit like being blind, I suppose. Well, you learn without having your eyes to see. You have to, first of all, think very hard before you go to work. Before you get in the water, you have to have visualized in your mind what it is you're trying to do. But you'd be amazed at how much you can tell simply by feel. And of course, underwater, your sense of hearing is unreliable also. because the speed of sound underwater is 4 times as fast as it is in air. The way we tell direction that a sound is coming from is by our brain tells us the difference in the time that it takes a sound to reach one ear and the other. Well, underwater, our brain is not quick enough to detect the difference. The sound essentially reaches both ears at the same time. So we can't tell easily where a sound is coming from. So that can be unnerving and not very helpful.
Nothing is very helpful under here. With little sight and no dependable hearing, the Navy divers have to feel their way around the hulk. They find nothing wrong, and the hulk can be towed away.
007!
That is, if everything back on the Grasp goes the way it should. With the ship firmly connected to the anchor in front, it now has wired itself to the beached hulk in back of it.
We have some very heavy wire, so we have to float it over. We have some small inflatable floats. We call them strawberry buoys. That floats the wire and keeps it off the bottom. Once that's hooked up to the stranded vessel, we take all the slack out, and the anchors dig in and hold the ship.
All ahead 2!
Back on the bridge, Captain Anderson guns the ship toward the beach gear, or anchor, and away from the beached vessel. At the same time, below decks, the so-called wire is being winched aboard. Both the ship's propellers and the ship's winch are pulling at the hulk on the beach. The grasp strains, the lines go taut. Then the wreck slips out into the open water. The winch keeps pulling the ship up close. Then smaller boats can take over and maneuver her back to a dock. It's all in a good 2 days' work for the Grasp. It was just an exercise, but it was hard, dangerous work.